crazy that people have access to information that shows that there's something outside of us that is more intelligent, at least more capable than we are, and they hide it from everybody else.
Imagine waking up tomorrow to discover that the greatest battle in human history isn't being fought in space or on land. It's happening nearly 7 miles beneath the ocean, in a place where sunlight has never existed. For decades, scientists believed the Mariana Trench was nothing more than a cold, lifeless abyss. They were wrong. A recent deep-sea expedition recovered something from the darkest place on Earth that could rewrite everything we know about biology, energy, and even death itself. This isn't a new species or a mysterious rock. It's a biological breakthrough with the potential to unlock eternal life and limitless energy. But there's one terrifying problem. Only one nation can control it. And while the world remains distracted, a silent race has already begun beneath the waves, where every discovery could spark the next global conflict. The next world war won't begin in the sky or on land. It will begin at the bottom of the ocean. Before we uncover what's really hiding in the deepest trench on Earth, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because we bring you the most incredible mysteries, hidden discoveries, and untold stories from around the world. Now, let's dive into the abyss, the secret in the sediment. We usually think of the ocean as a blue, happy place where dolphins swim and coral reefs grow, but that is just the skin of the beast. If you want to see where the real story is happening, you have to go down, way down. We are talking about the Challenger Deep, a scar in the Earth's crust that drops nearly 7 miles into the abyss. To put that in perspective, you could take Mount Everest, drop it in the hole, and still have over a mile of water swimming over the peak. For a long time, we thought this place was dead. It is pitch black, freezing cold, and the pressure is over 1,000 times stronger than what you are feeling right now. It is enough to snap a human body like a twig. But recently, a mission called the Mir Project decided to take a closer look. They sent a state-of-the-art submersible called the Fendoyer down into the dark. This was not a sightseeing trip. It was a heist. The submersible acted like a deep-sea vacuum cleaner. It stayed down there, groaning under the weight of the ocean, and sucked up huge amounts of sediment from the floor. When the scientists got that mud back to the lab, they expected to find rocks and maybe some dead bacteria. Instead, they found a hidden universe. The samples contained over 7,000 different types of microbes. But here is the crazy part. 90% of them were completely new to science. We had never seen them before. It was like finding an alien planet right here on Earth. But it was not just that they existed. It was what they were doing that freaked everyone out. These tiny organisms were thriving in conditions that should have obliterated them. They were eating toxic chemicals for breakfast. They were surviving pressure that breaks steel. It turns out these microbes have a superpower. They have a biological shield that repairs their DNA the second it gets damaged. Think about that for a second. In our world, damage leads to aging and death. Down there, these things just fix themselves and keep going. This discovery is not just a cool fact for a textbook. It is a blueprint. If we can figure out how they do it, we are looking at a revolution that makes the discovery of electricity look small. But there is a problem. You cannot just go down there with a bucket and scoop this stuff up. It is technically the most difficult environment on the planet to access. And yet, one nation has already mapped it out better than anyone else. While the rest of the world was distracted by politics on the surface, this mission collected 15 times more data than any previous deep-sea attempt. They did not just find bugs. They found the code to biological immortality. And now that we know it is down there, the race is on to see who can exploit it first. The ocean floor is no longer a wilderness. It is a battlefield. And the first weapon in this war is not a gun, but a microscope. But biology is only half the story, because buried beside those microbes is something that could reshape the economy. The gold rush in the dark. So, we have these powerful microbes that could transform medicine. That is massive. But nations do not usually spend billions of dollars simply to cure diseases. They do it for power and energy. And right beside those biological wonders, the floor of the Mariana Trench is covered with something that looks like dirty potatoes. These are called polymetallic nodules. They look like ordinary rocks, but crack one open, and you are staring at the future of technology. They are packed with cobalt, nickel, copper, and manganese. If you own an electric car, a smartphone, or a laptop, you depend on these metals. Right now, getting these materials on land is a nightmare. It is messy, expensive, and the mines are running dry. But down there in the darkness, there are trillions of dollars worth of these nodules simply sitting on the mud, waiting to be collected. The country that controls these deep-sea fields controls the global battery market. And in the 21st century, batteries are the new oil. But here is the catch. It is not only about batteries. There is another resource down there called fire ice. Its scientific name is methane hydrate. It looks like white frozen slush, but if you bring it to the surface and hold a match near it, it burns. It is a highly concentrated fuel source. Some estimates say there is more energy trapped in this fire ice than in all the oil and gas reserves on the planet combined. Imagine that. A nearly endless power source sitting at the bottom of the ocean. It sounds like a dream come true, right? Well, not quite. Trying to get this stuff out is like playing roulette with a loaded gun. The seafloor is unstable. If you start drilling and dredging to collect the fire ice, you could trigger massive underwater landslides. And that is not even the worst-case scenario. If we disturb these deposits the wrong way, we could release massive clouds of methane gas. Methane is a greenhouse gas that is 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. If a methane burp escapes from the trench, it would shoot through the water and reach the atmosphere, accelerating climate change overnight. We are talking about a climate bomb that could explode if a mining drill hits the wrong spot. Yet, despite the danger, the machinery is already being built. Giant robotic harvesters that look like underwater bulldozers are being designed to crawl across the bottom of the world. They are going to scrape the seafloor to feed the hunger of our tech industry. This is where the tension explodes. Who owns the bottom of the ocean? Technically, it is international waters, but in reality, it belongs to whoever has the technology to get there and the military to protect it. We are seeing a new gold rush, but instead of pickaxes and mules, we are using nuclear submarines and AI robots. The stakes are so high that traditional alliances are starting to crack. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. But while they are fighting over the rocks and the gas, they are overlooking the biggest discovery of all, the one that deals with the very fabric of life itself, everywhere around us in nature. The rocks power our phones, but what scientists discovered inside the cells of trench creatures could power us forever. Why Big Pharma wants the abyss. Let's return to those microbes for a moment, because the implications are genuinely, terrifyingly awesome. Remember how I said they repair their own DNA? Let's unpack what that actually means for you and me. On the surface, our cells are constantly under attack. The sun, pollution, and simply living damage our DNA. Over time, our bodies become worse at repairing that damage. That is what aging is. That is why we get wrinkles, why our organs fail, and why we eventually die. But deep inside the trench, life follows different rules. The pressure is so intense that it should literally rip DNA molecules apart, but it doesn't. These organisms have evolved a supercharged repair system. They have enzymes and proteins that work like an elite construction crew, instantly patching cracks in their genetic code. Biotechs and pharmaceutical companies are looking at this and seeing dollar signs. If we can harvest those enzymes and adapt them for humans, we could theoretically stop cells from breaking down. We are talking about treatments that could prevent cancer from ever taking hold. We are talking about slowing the aging process down to a crawl. It sounds like science fiction, but the blueprint is already there. And that could change medicine, technology, and the future of humanity forever. And it is not only about medicine. This reaches into industry, too. The creatures down there have soft bodies like the Hadal snailfish. It looks like a ghostly tadpole. It has no hard bones because bones would snap under the pressure. Instead, its body is packed with a special molecule that keeps its cells from collapsing. Engineers are studying this to create new materials. Imagine a submarine hull or a spacecraft that copies the structure of a deep-sea fish. Flexible, self-repairing, and nearly impossible to crush. The military applications are endless. You could build drones that dive deeper than radar can track and remain there for months, powered by the environment itself. This is why the data from the MIR project was such a huge deal. When they released some of that genetic information, it was like handing out a treasure map. Now, labs around the world are trying to synthesize these proteins. But this raises a massive ethical question. If one country cracks the code to anti-aging or super materials using resources from international waters, do they share it or keep it for themselves? History tells us they will keep it. And that is why the presence in the region is ramping up. It is not just about exploration anymore. It is about occupation. We are seeing a shift from let's go, look to let's go, stay. And the plans for the future are absolutely wild. They are done simply visiting the bottom. Now, one superpower is building a permanent base to live there. The new Cold War is wet. We are watching the construction of a new kind of empire. For the last 50 years, the United States has been the dominant force in the Pacific. But the game has changed. The approach to the Mariana Trench has split into two very different strategies. On one side, you have the United States. Their approach has largely focused on conservation and mapping. They declared the trench a national monument. They send ships like the Okeanos Explorer to map the floor and stream the video to the public. It is open, scientific, and transparent. They want to protect the area and understand it before we destroy it. It is the moral high ground. But then there is the other side. China is taking a more aggressive industrial approach. They are not simply mapping. They are preparing to move in. Reports indicate plans for a deep-sea station. Think of it like the International Space Station, but sitting thousands of feet below the surface. The idea is a permanent base where crews can live for weeks at a time, conducting research and mining tests. This is not just a sketch on paper. Components are already being developed, and they are not depending on humans alone. The strategy involves swarms of AI-powered robotic gliders. Instead of sending one massive, expensive submarine, you send hundreds of small, cheap drones. They communicate with each other. They map the terrain, and they search for resources. If one breaks, it does not matter. You still have 99 more. This is a strategic nightmare for rival nations. If a country has a permanent acoustic sensor network and a drone swarm in the deep ocean, they can hear everything. They can track every submarine, every ship, and every movement across the Pacific. The Mariana Trench becomes a listening post covering half the globe. This is the new Cold War. It is silent, it is dark, and it is happening under crushing pressure. The nation that masters the technology to operate down there could win the century. It is about who has the strongest materials, the smartest AI, and the best batteries. And guess where the materials for those batteries are? Right there on the seafloor. It is a self-feeding cycle. You need the trench to build the technology that lets you master the trench. But while the superpowers are watching each other through periscopes, something else is happening down there that almost nobody is discussing. Something that connects the bottom of our ocean to the darkest corners of outer space. The trench is not simply a mine, it is a training ground for the most ambitious mission in human history. The final frontier is here. This is where things get cosmic. NASA is watching these deep-sea discoveries just as closely as the military, perhaps even more closely. Why? Because the Mariana Trench is the closest thing we have to an alien world without leaving our own planet. We are actively planning missions to Jupiter's moon, Europa, and Saturn's moon, Enceladus. Both of these celestial bodies are covered in miles of ice. But beneath that frozen crust, we are almost certain there are huge, churning liquid oceans. And in those oceans, there is no sunlight. There is only pressure, chemical heat, and darkness. If life exists there, it may look exactly like the life we just found in the Mariana Trench. Microbes feeding on pure chemicals, fish surviving crushing pressure that would flatten a tank. That is the ultimate template for extraterrestrial life. By studying the creatures in the trench, we are learning how to search for aliens. The robots being tested in the Pacific today are the prototypes for the machines that could swim on Europa in 20 years. But limiting our imagination to just microbes might be our biggest mistake. This brings us to the shadow biosphere theory. For decades, biology has assumed all life on Earth shares a common ancestry, the same basic DNA structure. But the trench challenges that assumption. What if there is a second genesis of life down there? Life that doesn't use DNA the way we know it? Or life that survives on arsenic or silicon instead of carbon? Some theorists suggest that the strange gelatinous structures seen by deep-sea rovers aren't just animals, but biological colonies following a completely different evolutionary tree. We might be searching for little green men in the sky, while an entirely different intelligent biology has been swimming beneath our feet for 4 billion years. And then there is the sound. The ocean is not silent. It is a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and roars. But in the deep, there are sounds that defy explanation. In the late 90s, NOAA recorded the bloop, an ultra-low-frequency sound so powerful it was detected by sensors thousands of miles apart. Scientists eventually said it was an ice quake, but the acoustic signature sounded terrifyingly organic. This brings us to one of the wilder, more disturbing theories, that the trench isn't just a habitat, but a hiding place. Cryptozoologists and fringe oceanographers have long suggested that the pressure of the deep acts as a shield. We assume prehistoric giants, the megalodons, or even older unnamed leviathans died out ages ago. But in an ecosystem that hasn't changed in 100 million years, why would they disappear? The abyssal gigantism phenomenon is real. Squids grow to the size of school buses down there. It is not impossible to imagine that truly massive apex predators migrated into the crushing darkness to escape extinction events that wiped out surface life. They could be down there right now, moving slowly through the slurry, invisible beneath our tiny spotlights, listening to our propellers. But if it's not monsters, it might be something arguably worse. Us. The connection to the stars brings us back to a grim, militaristic reality on Earth. While NASA searches for biology, the Pentagon searches for invisibility. The Wild West of the ocean floor is the perfect place to hide the ultimate doomsday device. There are theories that major superpowers aren't simply mapping the floor for mining. They are building autonomous unmanned stations. If you can hide a nuclear drone in a trench 6 miles deep, you have a second strike capability that no satellite can detect and no torpedo can reach. The glitches in sonar and the strange metallic shadows seen on deep-sea scanners might not be geography. They might be forward operating bases for a war that hasn't begun yet. This rush to militarize and monetize brings us to the most dangerous part of the deep, the biological Pandora's box. We are searching for untouched life, but we may have already damaged it. In one of the deepest dives ever recorded, a robotic lander reached the Challenger Deep. It was a moment of triumph. But when the cameras switched on, do you know what they saw? A beer bottle. Even deeper, they discovered a plastic bag. We have turned the most isolated place on the planet into a trash can before we even finished exploring it. Microplastics have been found inside the stomachs of amphipods living down there. These creatures have survived meteors and ice ages, but they are now choking on our waste. However, the pollution could trigger a backlash we are not prepared for. The sediment at the bottom of the trench is a time capsule. It contains bacteria and viruses that have been sleeping for millions of years. Pathogens that modern surface life has no immunity to. As we dredge the bottom for manganese nodules and drill into the crust for fire ice, methane hydrate, we aren't simply disturbing the dirt. We are waking the dead. There is a very real, non-zero chance that the next global pandemic won't come from a wet market or a lab, but could be dredged up from the abyss, clinging to the hull of a mining ship. This is the double-edged sword. We have the technology to uncover miracles down there. Cures for cancer derived from the unique proteins of deep-sea organisms. Infinite energy from methane reserves. Keys to the universe. But that same technology lets us pollute and destroy faster than ever before. We are acting like looters in a library, burning the books just to see better in the darkness. Some of the wildest theories suggest that the bioluminescence down there isn't simply for hunting. It's communication. That the massive network of glowing life forms a planetary neural network, a hive mind that we are poking with sticks. If the deep ocean is one coherent organism, how long before it responds to the infection that is humanity? So, we are left with a choice. The Mariana Trench has just shown us that it is not empty. It is packed with power, deep power, the kind that can change history. But are we going to treat it like a temple of knowledge or a gas station to be looted? The silence of the deep is gone. The machines are coming, and whatever happens in the next 10 years down there is going to ripple up to the surface and affect every single one of us. The rewrite of global power has begun, and the ink is salt water. We are staring into the abyss, and for the first time in history, we are starting to realize that something down there is staring back. So, here is the question that should keep you awake at night. If one nation gains exclusive control over the anti-aging biology found in the trench, do you think they will share it with you, or will immortality become a state secret? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you want to see more about the ocean's darkest secrets, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching,